Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us here on Fem Talk 89 FM or our YouTube channel or our Mixcloud account. It's time for Who Makes the News. I'm Sean Rawls.
And I'm Alicia Evans. Nice to talk to you guys, non-face-to-face.
Almost. So what is Who Makes the News?
Well, Who Makes the News is the final one for this week. So it is our daily kind of production where we go through media in Fiji, both print media, online media, social media, and other forms of media releases. And basically take a look at what are the stories that are making the headlines and if they are gender balanced.
Or if they have gender in them at all.
At all.
We have two stories for you today that we kind of picked out of the Fiji Times. What is number one?
Number one is featuring, again, the Assistant Minister for Industry, Trade and Tourism and other portfolios, Lorna Eden. And she's actually speaking on local government. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it really is, because we do a lot of work around kind of advocacy and wellbeing in local government, particularly in the rural communities that we engage with. So she's basically saying or addressing the issue of mayoral, is that how you say it? Elections, electing your mayor.
Mayoral.
Mayoral.
Voting for the mayor.
that person.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's saying that there is no date set for those elections, but they will happen.
Yeah.
They will happen after there are some certain reforms that are taking place to do with local elections.
The Local Government Act, I guess. Maybe that's what it's called, but it is basically, there's this act, and apparently it's really old. And
Outdated.
so generally the entire operations of local government have been happening for a significant amount of time now without any actual elections. So there are no elected officials, and so people are a little bit concerned. But people are also concerned because generally they go to their local government very often, because local government are responsible for providing a number of services, and there is some issue with identifying who is really responsible for things like taking care of the roads or the state of the environment and just general safety. But local government is particularly responsible for markets and the management and ownership of markets, and a number of women in rural areas use the markets as their income generation, whether they are farmers or whether they actually are middle people in the wider sense of the words. They buy the thing, sell the thing, make the profit.
Chain.
And so without people to hold accountable, it's very difficult to see change. And we had the president talk about what is on the legislative agenda for the legislature, which basically means what is Parliament going to be talking about next year. And it does not include, for next year, reviewing the Local Government Act explicitly. There are a number of other things, like they didn't explicitly mention that the legislature will be looking at, for example, the change of the flag, which I believe they're probably going to be changing next year. So there's a possibility that might bring up changing the Local Government Act next year, but it hasn't been confirmed. So no idea when that's going to happen.
But it's really interesting that, seeing as there was for us, we kind of generated a lot of awareness on the number of women who are elected into national government, that Minister Eden didn't, push for the kind of message of we'll see and try and get more kind of gender responsive or inclusive laws in local government.
Yeah.
That wasn't in the article, which I was really disappointed to see.
Why not any lady mayors either?
Yeah.
There is the head of the Tavua Town Council. The CEO of the Tavua Town Council is a woman, but she's the only woman at the head of any town council in the country at the moment.
Although I think it's in Sabu Sabu, there is a woman who does, is it Sabu Sabu? Chamber of Commerce, and she's the president of something as well, another town. So, yeah, I have to double check where I get my facts from, but it was definitely in the papers, I think. They were talking to someone about local issues, and she was a woman. But very few and far between. But not making this particular article today.
Why not?
Of course not. Of course not, because no gender sensitization in, places. Generally.
So, leading on from things we've discussed previously here on Who Makes the News, the second of the two stories is also on a topic we have touched upon before.
Yeah, it's on. Today is National Suicide Day.
I don't think so, but
No?
it's like
Is it being pushed that way? Because it's a very
there's no specific sort of commemoration happening today. There is the expectation that children across the country will take the pledge to not commit suicide, following one incident of a group suicide of some very stressed out preteens, and I think they're very young teens.
Yeah.
So they were really young men, young boys. And so instead of broaching the topic by thinking about mental health issues and awareness and, you know, finding relevant stakeholders and collaborating in a way where the approach is reflective of the current number of health professionals in the country, we're going to stop all classes today and take kids to school and talk about suicide. Yes. So tell me about the story.
Well, yes, it's titled "Say No to Suicide." It's only talking to the Minister for Education when you're ready, and it's really worrying / interesting to talk about, because in the first, like the very first part of the article, it seems to kind of portray suicide as, you know, the in thing, like an attractive option that is available that teenagers think about, like, oh, I can't handle this, I'm gonna go and, you know,
peer pressure into suicide.
Yeah, it says tempted by peer pressure into suicide. You're not tempted into anything; you're pushed.
Yeah, and
because of societal
pressure, and definitely even in terms of other sort of, you know, results of mental health issues like self-harm and otherwise, there has been some misinterpretations of it as because of the media, because of films or television shows and things like that, it's become popular. But pain is not a fun thing. And
it's not even, I think some, like, I saw something on social media about maybe rethinking what we understand suicide to be. Not actively going and, you know, like jumping off of a building or something, or, you know, drinking toxic chemicals. It could be the fact that, you know, you cross the street and you hope that you get hit by a car. That is a form of suicide as well. And that's a very hard thing to kind of even
begin to fully discuss and talk about if you're actually not a medical health professional. And there are very little medical health professionals actually going out to schools today. And so more than 1,000 schools.
More than 1,000.
No classes. And we don't even have maybe 100 psychologists in the country.
And it's really interesting how the Ministry for Health have even gone about trying to organize it and make, because part of the activities is that they will do role playing in the schools to make the children aware of the effect of suicide.
What happens to your parents? And it's kind of weird, because if we're trying to teach kids about looking after yourself and not resorting to a permanent solution for a temporary problem, to use Lionel Gibson's words, we interviewed him yesterday, that's available on Mixcloud. But if you're thinking about what would happen to other people, then you're not addressing the issues that you actually have, or whatever is causing your unhappiness or your mental illness. And when you do that, it actually might exacerbate the problem, because there are feelings of guilt. You know, you'd feel terrible if you just got rid of what feels like the problem and all that kind of stuff. And so when it's not being approached in a very healthy way, and it's going to be interesting to see if anything actually happens over the weekend.
Because that is a bit
following that. But it's a legitimate concern, and it's not just from us. Youth Champs for Mental Health have also kind of expressed this concern that it feels rushed. It almost looks like the Ministry of Health is not actually doing anything in this situation. So they're actually supposed to be the ones looking after this. It is a health issue. It's a huge health issue. It actually is a non-communicable disease, depression, and other forms of mental illness and mental health problems. But no relevant stakeholders have really been engaged in addressing it. There hasn't been any task force actually set up. That would probably be far more effective, is for stakeholders to come together, even with the Ministry of Education, to come together in some kind of task force. Actually figure out, using relevant stakeholders, what is the healthiest approach to this and what is the most feasible approach, instead of just deciding no school,
I mean, there is the
suicide.
Fiji Alliance for Mental Health, which is almost like an umbrella organization, but they are dealing more so with the kind of policy level policy level of working around mental health services with various kind of stakeholders in the mental health field. But they did. I mean, I did an interview last year with someone from FAMH, and she was saying that I've lost my train of thought.
FAMH said
said that the implementation of the legislation, which is very much forward-looking, going back, looking at the kind of progression of mental health legislature, it is kind of forward-looking and moving forward. But how to implement that on the ground is where we are weak at right now. So I think that is, I mean, this is just a not great, but it's a clear indication that that is very much true.
Yeah.
That we aren't really coming together and investing in the organizations that we have on the ground, their networks and their experience, and saying, okay, look, guys, this is an issue. What do you recommend us to do to kind of address it?
Yeah. Particularly because, I mean, if you look at ministry level kind of activity, they can't be expected to all of a sudden know what's happening and then all of a sudden have all the expertise, particularly if you work in the education ministry, and then decide on something. So understanding what's happening at the ground, what is the capacity on the ground, what are actual services available, apart from stress wards in hospitals, one institution that specifically relates to mental health, and a couple of civil society, non-governmental organizations and groups that are specialized in the area of mental health. And so if you're not doing that and you can't support the services, then it's a funny thing. It's kind of like the whole cancer issue, is you try and create awareness about something, but if people can't actually get the help that they need, you're going to run into additional problems with your service delivery.
Particularly if you only have 1.9% of your whole health budget dedicated towards mental health services.
1.9.
And if this is
all,
maybe, hopefully, the Ministry of Health, did they say that they would be trying to increase the budget for mental health services?
No.
No?
They've only confirmed a prioritization on building or strengthening decentralized health centers.
Oh.
Yeah. That's kind of been the only confirmed thing so far. I guess that they probably are looking at it a little bit, but only time will tell next month, hopefully. And then the month after that.
November 6th.
Oh,
when the budget comes out.
Here is the budget. Yeah. Maybe this is their way of addressing the youth bulge, to think about it very morbidly.
Wow, Sean.
Wow, that was morbid. But who knows what the actual plan here is, because no one's really said what the plan is in terms of this huge campaign.
It's very much a reaction to the problem. It's not proactive at all.
It's very worrying. And so we will see after this week how everything goes and how students cope with their exams now that suicide is looming over their heads.
No, just to make it even less of a pressure.
Yeah, but I mean, the exams are happening in about 2 months, so we'll see. Yeah. And hopefully, after this, they really look at perhaps institutionally strengthening mental health services so that maybe if you did have a properly trained counselor at every district hospital or even every community level health center, even if you do consider, okay, how many health centers do we have? How many nurses are there? How can we over time make sure that perhaps there's at least one nurse that's kind of trained to deal with these kinds of situations before somebody gets redirected to more specific help? Because mental health is a huge thing because we don't really understand most of the brain. No, just like how we don't understand most of the female body. Yay!
But we can leave that till Monday.
Yeah, we can talk about vaginas on Monday. Good fun.
Alright.
So maybe it'll make the news because we said it. Who knows? So hey, thanks for joining us. This has been Mixed News.
Yes. And if you were interested to learn about kind of more about suicide and maybe the youth chance for mental health, and take that back. If you want to learn more about youth chance for mental health, and we've spoken about Lionel Rogers, the director who came into the studio yesterday to do a little brief interview about what he thought of this kind of ministry initiative, then you can check out that on our Mixcloud account page, as well as this interview, this podcast thing.
Yeah.
On our Mixcloud account page.
Yes.
And you can do that by going on our Facebook page.
Yes.
Facebook.com/Feminine Pacific, and then clicking on the link, which will take you to Mixcloud.
Yes. Also, we have a link on our website as well to the Mixcloud account. I think the Mixcloud account is mixcloud.com/FemilyPacific.
Yep.
Or at least Family Pack. More or less. We have lots of podcasts.
We do.
We have probably at least 100. But always, if you have any questions or you need to be directed to something, and particularly if you have any questions, give us a call on 3318160. You could also email info@familypacific.org.fj.
Yes. That's it. I've been Alicia Evan.
And I'm Sean Rolls. Have a good weekend.